Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video. Today I'm doing a video on four characters I'd like to see in Season 4 of Rick and Morty, which is supposed to be coming back in November of this year, so that's awesome. So yeah, that got me thinking that there's quite a few different characters that I'd like to see back, and these four people are some of those characters. Of course, there'll be probably more than likely a lot of new characters and new faces and new people, which is always awesome when it comes to Rick and Morty. But, you know, it'd be nice to see some familiar faces, as it were. So yeah, kind of funny how I've got this t-shirt on, because one of the characters that I'm on about is Doofus Rick. This one, not that you can pick up on the camera, but yeah, Doofus Rick is my first and fourth pick. These aren't in any, well, they're in an order, but, well, I guess, yeah, the higher the one, number 1 and 2 are probably the ones that I would really like to see. I'd like to see this character as well as the next character, but the other two a lot more. Anyway, yeah, Doofus Rick. I'm kind of confused because on my t-shirt it also has Slow Rick, which is kind of what I thought Doofus Rick was. He was the slow one, but clearly he's just the sort of stupidly dumb and kind of funny haha one, I guess. Slow Rick might be the one who's literally, like, really unable to do anything, really. And that, whereas Doofus Rick is able to do stuff, but he's kind of... I think they title him Doofus Rick because in the episode that he appears in, he likes Jerry, which obviously is such an un-Rick thing to do, which I think for Season 4, if we're continuing straight on linearly from where the last episode of Season 3 ended, because I mean with Rick and Morty you could start wherever you really wanted to with this show. You know, I think it would be really cool to have Doofus Rick there, so that maybe there's conflict between Rick of Universe C-137, and which is our universe, and Doofus Rick. Like, there's a bit of confrontation and conflict there, because obviously maybe Rick is really annoyed that obviously Jerry's back in the house family dynamic, and Doofus Rick is there and he's like, oh no, actually Jerry's a really nice guy because of X, Y and Z, and you know, it could really cause a lot of conflict and drama and tension, and I think he's a funny, interesting character, because the interesting thing to me is that he's one Rick who is, as I say, compassionate to the character of Jerry, yet that makes him the least Rick of all. So it's like a core value of Rick's character that he has to dislike Jerry, and that's why every other version of Rick throughout the multiverse refers to this one Rick as Doofus Rick, which I thought was quite interesting. So yeah, I think that character should really definitely come back. It really shows like a different version. It's like a little bit of like a for lack of a better term, like almost like a multi-Doctor story, but with Rick being the Doctor type character in the context of Rick and Morty. So that's always fun. Because unlike Doctor Who, it's not just having banter, but it's more, there could be, like, you know, cataclysmic, universe-defying ending, you know, sort of violent actions towards each other, maybe, you know, trying to one-up each other, and maybe Morty, Summer, Beth and Jerry are all in the crosshairs, as it were, of their conflict and that. In at number 3, I would probably have the character of Mr. Poopy Butthole back. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the only time since Season 2, since he was sort of introduced in Season 2 in the Parasite episode, if I'm not mistaken, he was introduced in that one, but since then he's only ever been really relegated to the post-credit scenes, which is such a shame, really, I think, because he's such a sort of lively, spry, interesting character that seems to gel well with Rick and our universe's Rick anyway, and then he, you know, I think he was there at the end of Season 2 saying, like, you know, 1.5 years, and then people were like, oh my god, it's been 1.5 years, Season 3 should be right around the corner, sort of thing, and then, you know, he did the sort of same thing in Season 3 at the end of that, if I'm not mistaken, and then, but this time it was all just in Roiland and Dan Harmon, and definitely just in Roiland, we're covering the backsides by having him be all like, oh yeah, and Rick and Morty season 4, 1,000 years time, years and years time. You could just wait around and mess around on the internet and waste your time waiting for this dumb show, or you could go out and do stuff with your life. So yeah, I'm sure in the comics he's probably really expanded upon in that, but that's the ancillary and or expanded universe, if you will, sort of stuff. Obviously I class that as canon because, let's be honest, it's Rick and Morty, everything is canon. In terms of Rick and Morty in my head, canon at least anyway, but yeah, so I think, yeah, I like the character. He seems quite joyful, and that makes him different from Rick, but unlike, say, Morty, who is a joyful character, unless in the presence of Rick, and Rick always sort of takes Morty down a peg, where the dynamic between him and Mr. Poopy Butthole doesn't, they don't seem to have that same sort of dynamic. So that's always cool to see him actually like a character and get along with a character for a change. Shows that Rick isn't completely an asshole 99% of the time, or that 1% of the time even, should I say. So yeah, in at number 2, I would really like Phoenix Person to come back, or come into the main show, as it were, because again, much like Mr. Poopy Butthole, he has only appeared, I think, once in a after credit scene, and that was after the epic, I was about to say finale, but epic opener of season 3. Tammy is like ominously like going on about stuff, and then she's like, make this character, make him rise of the Phoenix Person, and then it's like, wait, what? So yeah, that would be really cool, because he looks like he could be like an anti-bad version of, obviously, Bird Person, and how would Rick deal with the fact that this is like his best friend, or a character who used to be his best friend, who then has now been cybernetically turned into a bad guy, and is, essentially working for the Galactic Federation, which Rick does not stand for, and, he's a freedom fighter and a person who wants there to be, well, not peace amongst worlds by any means, but, what Rick wants is just, obviously, everyone to just be able to do whatever they want, really. And obviously he's not down for dictatorships, basically, which is what the Galactic Federation are. So that would be really interesting to see how he dealt with having to verse and or deal with an enemy that is essentially actually an old friend, or a person who used to be an old friend. Would there be an emotional reaction from him at all? Like, how would he process that? And I'd really like if Phoenix Person was to come back, I'd really like the character of Rick to be pushed against the wall, and to not so much be vulnerable, but be definitely pushed to his limits, because I think that's one thing that is quite, well, not annoying, but obviously quite repetitive with the format of the show, that Rick always just sort of knows what's what, and how to deal with stuff and that, and I think it would be nice to have him not so much matched, but definitely have a different adversary and a different threat to deal with. And then number 1, definitely for me, would be a character by the name of Crumbobulous Michael, who has already appeared, and you're probably thinking to yourself, what the hell are you on about? He's already dead, you can't bring him back. Well, considering Rick and Morty is a multiverse, you could have it where this story is actually set, in a different multiverse, or the story set before the events of that story. Even though it's set in season 4, it's set before they ever went to save the fart cloud. Or Morty did anyway. So Crumbobulous Michael, either way, is still alive. I just love killing. He's such a cool character. I mean, I know there's a picture of his girlfriend in a locket, and she's been expanded upon in the comics, because obviously she becomes a bad guy, because obviously she blames obviously Rick and Morty for the death of Crumbobulous Michael, her boyfriend or husband or whatever, which is understandable. So, I just think we could have a little bit more backstory, or a bit more depth to the character. The design, I love the design of those sort of insectoid creatures, but he's not of the Galactic Federation and that, and he kind of looks like an insectoid, similar insectoid sort of creature as to the, as I say, the bad guys of the Galactic Federation. So, yeah, those are 4 characters that I'd really like to see in Rick and Morty Season 4. If there are any characters you'd really like to see in Rick and Morty Season 4, in Rick and Morty Season 4, please do let me know by commenting in the comment section below. So yeah, thanks for watching, comment, rate and subscribe.